You heard the story of Adam and Eve, but do you know what really happened after they left Eden? Imagine yourself in their shoes. A perfect world, with crystal clear rivers, trees loaded with fruit, and the constant divine presence. Now, all of that is behind us. The gate of Eden closed, and in front of Adam was a hostile, unknown and frightening world. What would you do? What would your first day be like? Adam and Eve took their first steps out of the garden with a heavy heart. Behind Adam was the sound of cherubim with flaming swords, blocking their way back. Ahead, a strong and threatening silence. There was no longer the scent of flowers or the harmonious sound of streams. Just the dear sound of your feet stepping on hard, inhospitable ground. For the first time, they felt what it was like to be alone. The first night was uncomfortable, but not in a good way. Before, in Eden, there was a constant light. Even at night, the presence of God illuminated everything with serenity. Now the darkness was complete. The cold cut into their skin, and the hard ground hurt their bodies. Every sound in the room seemed like a threat. Adam and Eve lay on the floor, but they could not sleep. Fear kept them awake. It was a new fear, a fear they had never felt before. The fear of being hurt or of being forgotten by God. But that was just the beginning. The next day, they are tired, hungry, and with one overwhelming question on their minds. How would they survive? In Eden, food was within reach. They just needed to pick the tastiest fruits. Now trees were scarce, and many of the fruits they found tasted bitter or were dangerous. Hunger began to beat him, and Adam realized that, for the first time, he would need to fight to life. Adam began to dig the earth with his hands. The work was hard and frustrating. The curse that God had pronounced soon proved real. The earth did not cooperate. Even after hours of effort, it seemed like nothing changed. Ditch's hands were injured, Vitch's muscles ached, but he didn't give up. He knew that Ditch's survival, and Yeva's depended on it. Meanwhile, Yeva explored the surroundings in search of something edible. But what was once simple now seemed impossible. Some plants were bitter, others caused stomach pains. Over time, she learned to identify the ones that were safe, but with each mistake, the body suffered the consequences. This learning process was slow and full of obstacles, but little by little, Adam and Eve began to adapt. Years later, since birth brought a moment of unexpected joy. Eve, in the midst of labor pains, remembered God's words about the difficulty she would face in giving birth. But she couldn't imagine what that would mean. The labor was intense, the most painful moment she had ever experienced. Her scream echoed across the hills as Adam helplessly held her hand and prayed. When Cain was born, they both cried. They had brought new life into the world, but they also knew that it would carry the weight of inherited sin. Raising Cain was not easy. They needed to teach him everything they had learned, how to plant, how to identify food, and how to survive. But the world outside Eden was cruel, and Cain grew resentful. He never knew Eden, but he felt like something had been taken from him. This feeling of emptiness accompanied him throughout his life. Abel's birth brought an interesting contrast to the family. While Cain was reserved and intense, Abel was calm, more connected with God. This difference between the brothers soon became evident. Adam tried to keep the peace, but the rivalry grew. When the two began to offer sacrifices to God, the tension reached its limit. God accepted Abel's offering but rejected Cain's. This was enough to rouse deep anger in the firstborn. Imagine for a moment, envy gnawing at Cain's heart as he watched God's favor upon his brothers. This resentment turned into hatred, and the hatred led to the first homicide in history. When Cain killed Abel, the impact was devastating. Adam and Eve, who had already faced the pain of losing Eden, now faced something even more cruel. the loss of one child at the hands of the odds. Eva's pain was indescribable. She cried day and night, while Adam, consumed with guilt, tried to find the strength to comfort his wife. How could they move on after that? It was in this moment of darkness that new hope was born. Eve became pregnant again and gave birth to Seth. 7 was a milestone in the history of humanity. She was the symbol of a new beginning, and through its lineage, humanity began to reboot its relationship with God. Among its descendants, usurped, the first to call upon the name of the Lord again. Meanwhile, Cain, burdened by the weight of his guilt, wandered to distant lands and founded the city of Enoch, beginning a lineage marked by cultural advances, but also by distance from God. As the years passed, Adam and Eve grew older. Their lives were long and full of challenges. Adam lived more than 900 years, according to reports, and dedicated his time to teaching his descendants about the lessons he had learned. He talked about Eden, about God's promise, and about the hope that one day humanity would be redeemed. Eve, even in her old age, remained a figure of wisdom. She taught women about the importance of faith and resilience, saying that, despite mistakes, there was always an opportunity to start over. When the time came for her departure, she left a powerful legacy, not just for her family, but for all of humanity. Today, the story of Adam and Eve still resonates in our lives. Your choices, your mistakes, and your overcoming reflect the dreams we all face. Eden may have been lost, but hope remains alive. But have you ever stopped to think? The story of Adam and Eve is not just a narrative about the past. It is also a living metaphor that reflects the dreams we face every day. Every choice we make, every step toward good or evil, carries the echo of the decision they made in Eden. Now, imagine the extent of their legacy. From 2 human beings came an entire lineage that shaped the history of humanity. But do we know everything about what happened after he left Eden? Other parts of the story we don't know. Some scholars suggest that Adam and Eve may have faced many other challenges that are not recorded in secret texts. After all, we are talking about a time when the world was just beginning. How did they deal with natural phenomena like storms, viruses, or even predators they were unaware of? How did they explain to their children what had happened in Eden? These moments, although undocumented, make us reflect on the effort it took to establish the foundation of civilization. Adam and Eve were not just survivors, they were the first teachers, the first farmers, the first parents. Every discovery they made, from how to farm to how to protect their family, was passed down and became the foundation for future generations. Now, think about something. What would it be like to live hundreds of years like Adam and Eve did? The Bible reports that Adam lived more than 900 years. Can you imagine carrying the weight of your choices for so long? Watch your descendants grow, spread, and often make the same mistakes. Each new generation was a living reminder of the lost Eden, but also of the promise of redemption that God had made. And yet, they continued. Adam and Eve showed that even when all seems lost, there are still reasons to move forward. Every day outside of Eden was a day of learning and overcoming. Each achievement, no matter how small, was proof that humanity was capable of adapting and thriving, even in an imperfect world. Now, imagine what it would be like for other descendants to hear stories about Eden. For Adam, the perfect garden was nothing more than a MITH. Many probably wondered if he had really existed. Others may have been envious of Adam and Eve for having lived there, even if only for a short time. This disconnection with the original paradise is something we see reflected to this day. Isn't it true that we all, at some point, feel like there is something missing? An emptiness, as if we were always trying to return to a place we don't even know. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson in the story of Adam and Eve. Eden may have been lost physically, but the desire to return to it, to achieve a full life, connected and in harmony with God, remains alive in all of us. Returning to the end of Adam and Eve's lives, their last words must have been a mix of warning and hope. Adam, knowing that each is was near, probably got at each descendants and spoke about God's promise. She knew that despite the difficulties, there was a bigger plan afoot. Which's words must have resonated as a call to each's children and grandchildren not to give up, even when life seemed unbearable. And so, the story of Adam and Eve dies not end with a sadness, but with a legacy that spans millennia. A legacy that reminds us that, even in the midst of our fall, there is always the possibility of redemption. Now, stop for a moment and reflect. How many times have you faced moments when you felt like everything was lost? How many times have you thought about giving up? The story of Adam and Eve teaches us that it is possible to start over, even when the scenario seems hopeless. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like on this video, because it helps us continue to bring you impactful stories like this. Share it with your friends, so that more people can reflect on what the story means to them. But did Adam and Eve imagine the extent of what they had started? Every choice they made, every step they took outside of Eden, shaped not only the history of their own family, but that of all humanity. Imagine what it would be like for them to look at their descendants and see the different directions each one took. Some sought the presence of God, while others turned away completely. And what does that say about us? The same choice that Adam and Eve faced in the garden continues to be presented to all of their descendants, generation after generation. We are constantly in an internal battle between what we know is right and what we want, even if we know it is not what is best for us. Maybe that's what makes their story so universal. It speaks directly to the human condition. Going back to the lives of Adam and Eve, they not only live there to see their children and grandchildren, but they also witnessed the emergence of a primitive society. Their descendants began to spread out, forming small groups and creating the foundations for what would eventually become cities. Each new generation brought innovations, but also new challenges. Adam and Eve, like the first ones, were seen as a kind of living reference. Can you imagine what they felt as they realized how the world was changing around them? Adam, with BTS advanced age, could see how people began to depend more on themselves and less on God. Евой, on the other hand, probably took a more active role in family interactions, passing on their stories and teaching them about the consequences of the choices they had made. And speaking of which, what did Adam and Eve tell their descendants about Eden? Did they describe every detail, trying to keep the memory alive? Or did they prefer to avoid the subject, knowing that talking about the lost paradise would only increase longing and regret? Some traditions suggest that Adam, in his later years, became a man of deep reflection. She understood that his life was not just a story of mistakes, but also of learning and perseverance. By passing this on to his children and grandchildren, he helped create a sense of purpose. The idea that, even in the midst of difficulties, there was a promise of redemption on the horizon. And it's curious to think, did Adam and Eve have any idea of the impact of their lives? Did they know that, thousands of years later, their stories would still be told, debated and reflected upon by billions of people? Now, I want you to think about something. In today's world, with so many distractions and choices, aren't we, in a way, recreating the same dynamic as the garden? We are constantly tempted to choose paths that we know take us away from what is right. But just as Adam and Eve learned, there is always an opportunity to return. There is always a time when we can choose a new path. Adam and Eve left a legacy that is both a warning and an inspiration. They show us that the consequences of choices are real, but also that perseverance is possible. Even though they lost Eden, they didn't give up. They rebuilt their lives from scratch, learned to survive in a world that seemed to reject them, and found ways to pass on faith and hope to subsequent generations. And even in the face of all this, one question remains. What would the final reconciliation of Adam and Eve with God be like? What did they say in their last prayers? Did they ask for forgiveness? Or were they simply grateful for the chance to stay alive and live a legacy? This reflection brings us to the main point of the story. Eden may have been lost, but humanity's journey is far from over. Each of us carries within ourselves the same search that began with Adam and Eve. A search for redemption, for meaning, for something greater. So, I want to invite you to think, what is your Eden? What are you looking for? And most importantly, what are you doing to get there? If this reflection touched you, leave a like on this video. It not only helps us grow, but also brings profound messages like this to more people. Share it with your friends, because we never know who might need to hear something like this today. And don't forget, our channel is full of stories and reflections that will surprise you. There are more mysteries, more answers and more questions that will make you think. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos, and see you in the next one.